Good morning and welcome to On the Spot News right here on Zimbabwe Daily. My name is Yvonne Muchaka. Let us take a look at the news making the headlines. Prison staff fingered in Sikhala poisoning. President Mnangagwa in Rwanda for Agriculture Summit. Liz Truss to replace Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. Mthwakazi protests as jailed activists are transferred to Harare. Include PWDs in electoral processes, CSOs. $12 billion disbursed speed up road rehab. Terrified teachers report for duty. Saudi Arabia engages Zimbabwe. Council in trouble over missing $190 million. Harare's water system needs maintenance, expansion, and funding. Competitiveness of local industry to dominate CZI Congress. And now for the news in detail. The family of Zimbabwean opposition stalwart Jobs Wiwa Sikhala fears his life hangs in the balance as his health continues to deteriorate in the infamous Chikurubi maximum security prison. Sikhala's relatives fear he might die in jail after reports emerged on Saturday that he was allegedly poisoned in prison. He has been behind bars since 14 June after violence broke out in Yatsime, Chitungwiza at the funeral of Mo Blessing Ali, a Citizens Coalition for Change activist allegedly killed by ZANU-PF activist Pius Mukandi Jamba. The state charged Sikhala with inciting unrest and defeating the course of justice. He has been denied bail 5 times. President Emmerson Mnangagwa is in Rwanda for the Africa Green Revolution Forum 2022 that aims to find strategies to build resilient food systems in Africa. He was met at Kigali International Airport by Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation, Dr. Vincent Biruta, and Zimbabwe's ambassador to Rwanda, Professor Charity Manyeruke. The 12th annual Africa Green Revolution Forum Summit for driving the agriculture and food agenda in Africa is following up on key commitments made last year and seeks to find a way forward to build resilient food systems in Africa. Britain's Conservative Party announced Monday that its members had chosen Liz Truss to replace Boris Johnson as leader, turning to a hawkish diplomat, party stalwart and free market champion to govern a country facing the gravest economic crisis in a generation. Ms. Truss, 47, prevailed over Rishi Sunak, a former Chancellor of the Exchequer, whose resignation in July set in motion Mr. Johnson's messy ouster. Her victory by a margin of 57.4% to 42.6% was widely expected in recent weeks after she took a commanding lead in the polls. It makes her Britain's 4th Prime Minister in 6 years and 3rd female leader after Margaret Thatcher and Theresa May. Secessionist Mthwakazi Republic Party (MRP) yesterday petitioned the Zimbabwe Prisons and Correctional Services (ZPCS) over the incarceration of its 9 activists and the unexplained transfer of 8 of them to Chikurubi Maximum Prison in Harare. ZPCS last week transferred Mongameli Qukutwayo Mlotshwa, Nkosinathi Ncube, Tino Nkomo, Levson Ncube, Akim Dewele, Welcome Moyo, Sibongile Banda, and Busi Moyo to Chikurubi Maximum Security Prison in Harare following a directive from authorities. Only Maxwell Nkosi was transferred to Rwanda. A petition signed by MRP President Qondisi Moyo, dated September 5 and directed to ZPCS Commissioner General Moses Chikovu and copied to President Emmerson Mnangagwa, Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Minister Ziyambi, Zimbabwe Republic Police Commissioner General Godwin Matanga, and Bulawayo Metropolitan Affairs Minister Judith Ncube, demanded reversal of the transfers. Zimbabwe's civic society organizations have pleaded for the inclusion and integration of people with disability (PWDs) in electoral processes, including the ongoing delimitation exercise. Data on PWDs' political participation is scarce. According to the United Nations flagship report on disability and development, the limited available data shows an extremely low participation and representation of people with disability, especially women in political leadership roles. The limited information on persons with disabilities' participation in electoral processes has triggered complaints over lack of access to PWD friendly electoral materials and facilities. This has seen many PWDs lose confidence and the right to vote. Road authorities across the country have so far this year received nearly $12 billion from the Zimbabwe National Road Administration (ZINARA) as efforts to construct a world-class road network as promised by President Mnangagwa gather pace. The money was disbursed to rural district councils, urban councils, the District Development Fund, and the Department of Roads. Figures published on Sunday show that ZINARA has disbursed $11.9 million as at August 31 from the collection of $16.9 million. In an interview on Sunday, ZINARA Public Relations Manager Mr. Tendai Mugabe said the funds were being disbursed under the government's Emergency Road Rehabilitation Program too. He said ZINARA would continue to publish the amount of money sent to road authorities every quarter. Saudi Arabia has taken note of Zimbabwe's re-engagement and investment drive and is keen to enhance relations with Harare. Advisor in the Royal Court of Saudi Arabia, Mr. Ahmad Katan, said yesterday, speaking after paying a courtesy call on President Mnangagwa at State House, where he sought Zimbabwe's support to host the Expo 2030. Mr. Katan said Saudi Arabia was keen on scaling up diplomatic relations with Zimbabwe. With a gross domestic product of about $700 billion, Saudi Arabia is one of the world's top 20 economies, and its interest in doing business in Zimbabwe continues on a rise. At least 70% of teachers who reported for duty yesterday when schools opened for the third term did so out of fear of suspension or having their salaries docked, teacher unions have claimed. Teachers have previously gone on periodic strikes to protest poor salaries, and government has responded by employing the no work, no pay principle and also going to the extent of suspending the absentee educators. Educators Union of Zimbabwe Secretary General Tapedza Zhou said their survey revealed that teachers were suffering in silence and reported for work under protest. The South African government recently announced that it was extending the validity of the Zimbabwe exemption permits up until June 30, 2023, to allow holders to regularize their stay in that country by applying for other visas or waivers. The reasons for the extension included that only a few Zimbabwean nationals had applied for visas or waivers just 3 months before the expiry of the ZEP. Although the Home Affairs Department in South Africa, in a statement, said it was committed to affording affected Zimbabwean nationals another opportunity to apply for visas or waivers, those affected should realize that the reason why only few had applied was because very few qualified for the alternative visas. Therefore, while the latest announcement came as a relief to many, it must be emphasized that people should not relax but instead plan ahead. Because, as alluded above, only a few will qualify. This would mean the majority of the almost 400,000 ZEP holders will have to voluntarily return home or risk being deported by authorities. And now, in other news, the Harare City Council has been ordered by Parliament's Public Accounts Subcommittee on Local Authorities to submit financial statements of its companies as the subcommittee continues its probe into what happened to the $190 million that could not be accounted for by Auditor General Mrs. Mildred Chidi in a 2020 audit report. Council lost track of the money after it cancelled a contract it had with a South African company, Quill Associates, that supplied with an accounting software, and Mrs. Chidi was concerned that no one could tell her what the large sum had been spent on and feared prepayments for goods or services that were never delivered or overpayment may have been made. Acting Town Clerk Mr. Mabena Moyo and Council IT Manager Mr. Samson Madzokere appeared before the subcommittee chaired by Chekutu West legislator Comrade Daxton Duna last Friday, where they were issued with the directive. The council companies include Harare Quarry, Rufare Marketing, and Easy Park, among others. Some are calling for the enactment of legislation to make vaccination mandatory in a country where anti-modern medicine religious sects hold sway on large swaths of the population of 15 million people. The Ministry of Health announced at the weekend that 698 children have died from measles since the outbreak started in April. The ministry said 37 of the deaths occurred on a single day on September 1. The health ministry said it had recorded 6,291 cases by September 4. The latest figures are more than 4 times the number of deaths announced about 2 weeks ago when the ministry said 157 children, most of whom were unvaccinated due to their families' religious beliefs, had succumbed to the disease. And finally, all is set for the Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries CZI annual conference that begins in Harare tomorrow, with the major highlight being the launch of a 300 million United States dollar facility for the manufacturing sector. This year's conference will be held under the theme Glocalize, meaning local firms must adopt to global trends. In light of this year's theme, the CZI has said the event will also deliberate how global events have impacted on the local industry, what the developments mean to Zimbabwean companies, and how industry can navigate around the issues for competitiveness on the global arena. CZI, which is Zimbabwe's largest industrial representative body, has outlined that the first day of the 3-day annual conference will this year focus on funding innovation. And the CZI story brings us to the end of our bulletin. Let us take a look at the news once again. Prison staff fingered in Sikhala poisoning. President Mnangagwa in Rwanda for Agriculture Summit. Liz Truss to replace Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. Mthwakazi protests as jailed activists are transferred to Harare. Include PWDs in electoral processes, CSOs. $12 billion disbursed to speed up road rehabilitation. Terrified teachers report for duty. Saudi Arabia engages Zimbabwe. Council in trouble over missing 190 million US dollars. Harare water system needs maintenance and expansion, and funding competitiveness of local industry to dominate CZI Congress. Thank you so much for tuning in to our On the Spot News headlines. Join us again tomorrow as we bring you more fresh news on the platform. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of the day.